Episode 3: The Birth of Rubber. One of the most important parts of an automobile is the tire, which is made of rubber. Around 1770, an English chemist named Joseph Priestley was handling a lump of natural rubber when he accidentally dropped it onto a piece of paper. When he picked up the rubber, he noticed that the writing on the paper had faded. This is how the eraser was invented. As a result, rubber began to be used for erasers, and due to its strength, flexibility, abrasion resistance, and sound absorption properties, it was soon applied to various fields, including balls, raincoats, and rubber tubes. However, rubber changed too easily depending on temperature, making it unsuitable for use as a tire for automobiles. The technology that addressed this issue was discovered entirely by chance by an American named Charles Goodyear. Goodyear, who had a particular interest in rubber, purchased the patent rights for a sulfur treatment method from Nathaniel M. Hayward, who had discovered in 1834 that adding sulfur to rubber improved its elasticity. Goodyear was researching how to make rubber practical by maintaining a consistent hardness regardless of temperature. However, simply adding sulfur was not enough to achieve the level of hardness Goodyear desired. On a cold winter day in 1839, Charles Goodyear, who ran a foundry in Connecticut, sat in front of a warm stove, deeply contemplating as he held rubber and sulfur. He was researching how to obtain rubber that was both durable and elastic, and had concluded that using natural rubber and sulfur was the most effective method so far. However, he was still unable to create the rubber he desired. While he was lost in thought about his experiment, the factory doors swung open, and a man hurriedly entered. He was a visitor who had come to see Goodyear's foundry. Goodyear left the rubber and sulfur on the stove and got up to attend to the visitor. After finishing the consultation and seeing the visitor off, Goodyear realized it was time to close the factory. He returned to the laboratory to extinguish the stove's embers, and only then noticed that the rubber and sulfur had burned. Though disappointed about losing his experimental materials, Goodyear considered it an unavoidable mistake and decided to clean up the burned rubber the next day. He simply put out the embers and closed the factory for the night. The next morning, Goodyear arrived at the factory and stepped into the cold laboratory. As he picked up the burned rubber to light the stove, he felt an unusual sensation at his fingertips. He immediately examined the rubber in his hand. It was noticeably different from any rubber he had seen before. Goodyear found that the rubber had hardened significantly and retained its shape even when stretched or bent. Additionally, despite being near the stove for an extended period, it was not sticky at all. At that moment, he realized that he had finally created the rubber he had been searching for. His research had finally borne fruit. This new invention came to be known as vulcanization and played a crucial role in the practical application of rubber. Later, it became the foundation for the development of one of the most essential components of automobiles, the tire. After developing practical rubber, Goodyear collaborated with his close friend and fellow rubber enthusiast, Hiram Hutchinson, to explore various business applications. He eventually founded Goodyear Tire, initially producing early tires by attaching solid rubber to wooden wheel rims. Around the same time, his friend Hutchinson developed a product called welly boots, which later became the well-known rubber boot brand Eagle Boots. In 1844, Goodyear obtained a patent for the vulcanization process. But he soon became embroiled in numerous lawsuits over patent infringements. In the end, while his invention made many others wealthy, Goodyear himself faced financial struggles throughout his life and passed away, leaving behind more than $200,000 in debt.